Hello everybody, it's Constance with MeetConstance.com. I wanted to get online for a few minutes and just do a quick book review for one of the books that we recently read, and it's called Killing the Sacred Cows by Garrett Gunderson. This is a really good book. I feel like there are some things that we can take away from this book that we can apply to our personal lives, we can apply to our businesses, we can apply to our present and our future. He does have a few controversial things that he points out in this book as well that we're going to dive in and talk a little bit more about those in the next few minutes. But just to start, let's just start with definition. Before you read this book, it's important to understand two key words. One is scarcity and the other one is abundance. And understanding the definitions of those two key terms at the beginning will help you sort of understand Garrett's mindset as you read the book. So scarcity basically means that this is where we feel that resources are limited, and that in order to really gain something, we have to take from somebody else. That's scarcity. And he's saying that a lot of people who have a scarcity mindset would not be able to generate wealth pretty much effectively or to the degree in which you want to generate wealth. So basically that scarcity in of itself is what is one of the attitudes or mindsets that prevent people from being able to sort of get to that next level of wealth and success. The other key word that we really need to understand is abundance. It's, you know, from a financial book, when you think of abundance, you're thinking of what? More, having more. But in this book, Garrett talks about abundance from the perspective that, you know what, there are no limits to resources. We have unlimited potential. We have unlimited resources, and those resources are available for those who desire it. And, you know, instead of having the scarcity attitude, which says, let me take in order to gain, abundance says, let me give in order to gain. Two key words that we need to understand as we're reading this book, because that's a foundation in which he talks a lot about the different concepts. So basically, what is this book about in a nutshell? It's about the myths that surround our understanding of money and wealth accumulation. And basically in this book, Garrett talks about 9 different types of financial myths. Some are more controversial than others. Like, for example, Garrett does not believe that 401ks are the best avenue to actually save for retirement. Obviously, that could be one aspect that's a little bit controversial. But let me just go in and talk about the myths that I think resonated with me and I thought were, you know, of value. In reading Garrett's book, there are a few myths that I think were important, and I would like to touch on those myths. The first one, which is the finite pie. This is the understanding that there are limited resources, and that's a scarcity type of mindset. So basically, you know, the first myth, he sort of debunks that to say that really there aren't limits to resources, but what it is that we are limited in our minds and how we think. And he really dives into having an abundance mindset and what that means. That means that we really have to work within our passion, work within our vision. So basically, if you operate from a place of scarcity, your vision is limited. And the only way to really fulfill your life purpose and to fulfill your life vision is to live in abundance. So two things that it's really important as we talk about money, success, and wealth is that we have an abundant type of attitude. And abundance is really more about giving. It's about giving of your time. It's about giving of your talent. It's about saying that, you know what, the more we give to society in general, the more we get back. And that this is the best way to generate wealth in the long term. So that's myth number one. I really was a big fan of that myth. The second myth that Garrett talks about is basically you're in it for the long haul, which is just basically the whole idea of saving money within your 401k for long term. And he, in this particular chapter, second myth, he's talking a lot about a lot of controversial, ways of managing your money. So basically, he believes that 401ks are not the right way to be able to save for the long term, because you're not using your money to multiply, and that the fact that one of the ways you generate wealth is to multiply your money. So if your money is being put away in your 401k, how do you multiply it? And that money is meant to be used to help you get to the next level. So again, a little bit controversial. I think what is the most important thing is to understand what you're investing in. I do believe and agree with Garrett when he's talking about that most people do not understand what they're investing in, and that when you invest in things you do not understand, you're effectively gambling with your money. So I do agree that you should be an informed decision, I guess an informed buyer of whatever it is that you're choosing to purchase. Whether or not you save your money through a 401k, it depends on your vision, it depends on what your strategy is. But I agree with him wholeheartedly. Do not invest your money in vehicles that you don't understand, and instead invest it in yourself. Invest it in picking out investments that will yield you the highest rate, but not necessarily the highest risk over time. So that's myth number 2. Great myth, a lot of good information, a bit controversial, but it was a great myth. So myth number 4 talks about financial security. Historically, when we think about financial security, we think of it from a steady paycheck, steady income, steady pension. That's what, the typical mindset is when it comes to financial security. I like this myth, and I'm glad that he took some time to really address it, because basically financial security cannot come from a corporation or a job or pension or government. Financial security is within. So it's an inside job. It's about how are you maximizing your talents, your skills to help you get to where you want to be financially. It's not a dependence on institution, but it's a dependence on ourselves. Making sure that we are our best and we are delivering the skills and the services that people value, because in that value they will purchase, and in purchasing we accumulate wealth. So basically I really love the fact that he talked about myth number 4, because it's about debunking that mindset that we're not going to bet on the corporation or the job. We're going to bet on ourselves and improving ourselves and becoming the best that we can be. And then provided that we're doing that, we're going to add value to others. Whenever we add value to others, we start to live a life of abundance, and people will pay you for that value that you're bringing into their lives. So that's myth number 4. Okay, myth number 5 is about money and power, and really debunking the notion that money is power. And in this book, Garrett simply says that no, money is not power. Money is the value that people create. So basically, the more value you add, the more wealth you accumulate. So the more valuable you become to yourself, to society, to your community, to your country, the more money you will eventually be able to earn. It is that understanding that you don't need to have a lot of money to be able to make money. You don't need to have money to make money, but what you do need to do is have a skill set that adds value. And whenever you add value, you live in abundance. And the more you live in abundance, the more wealth you accumulate. So that's just basically I guess a summary of the 5th myth. And historically, people do have that sort of mindset that money is power. I don't know where that comes from, but I think I definitely agree with Garrett's definition of what money is. I think that when we think of money from a value perspective, and we think of money from how we can contribute to society, how we can help people get to the next level. I believe that that is really where it is. And the more value we create, the more wealth we accumulate. Myth number 8. Myth number 8 is basically avoid debt like a plague. And he basically says no. In this myth, there's good debt and there's bad debt. And that when you're talking about good debt, it's a debt that you can use to actually purchase more goods or services, for example, to invest in your business, for example. It's the whole concept of using other people's money to make money. It's maybe where you have an opportunity to refinance for lower interest rate or things of that nature. So debt is good when it comes to scaling and growing your business and being able to leverage debt to actually gain financially. And he also goes into a little bit about what bad debt is. Bad debt is basically things that we purchase on credit card, for example, that won't help us advance financially. So buying an expensive handbag, for example, on a high interest credit card is an example of using debt poorly. But when you can find ways to leverage debt to make more money, don't be afraid to do that. Okay, so take away from myth number 8, high interest credit cards, for example, bad. Low interest term loans, good if you're going to take that money to invest in something that will help you gain more financially. Myth number 9 is a penny served is a penny earned. He's debunking this whole myth of penny pinching and saving everywhere that we can save. He actually says, you know what, we need to think of money and purchases from a value perspective. What does this purchase mean? And that instead of being focused on how much money we're saving, we should really be focused on earning more. So instead of saying, I'm not going to drink my favorite Starbucks coffee that I buy every day because I'm trying to save that money, instead of being so focused on these saving techniques that we try to implement, we really should be focused on earning more money. And it's really the whole idea of budgeting. Another thing that Gary talks about in this particular book is why it makes no sense at all to budget, and that when we start to think about budgeting, we're actually thinking in a scarcity sort of mindset. And his whole idea is that it's really about focusing on your skill set. How does your skill set add value? And then how can you sort of monetize that? So instead of living a life of such frugality that you can't really enjoy it because you're penny pinching any way you get, you're trying to cut coupons, you're subscribed to all these discount places, is that all of that time and energy, you could actually be taking that time and energy, reinvesting it into yourself so you can accumulate more wealth. So it's not about penny pinching. It's not about, when you die, you've left all your money behind and you haven't been able to enjoy it. So it's, Garrett's, I think, overarching message is that, be a good steward of your money. Make sure that you're investing in the right vehicles that will actually help you gain more financial wealth, but enjoy life. Enjoy the fruits of your labor. Go out for vacation, spend time with the people that you love, spend a little bit of money on yourself, but do it in a way that, adds value, that, this life is not just about accumulation of money and, our net worth. He talks, again, another thing that he talks about in this book is this whole idea of net worth, and that pretty much it's bunk, because what's the point of accumulating all this money and not enjoying it? But what we need to be focused on is how do we make the proper investment decisions that will yield us the best results, but invest in vehicles that we understand and that we're comfortable with. And most importantly, our investments should be aligned with our vision, our value for our lives, who we are, who we can connect, what we connect to. It's really about looking at investment and money from more of like a holistic approach versus just, budgeting, cutting down expenses, cutting coupons and all of that. So I enjoyed this book. I think it's definitely a good read. I don't necessarily agree 100% with everything that he states in this book, but it's a really good book, and I think that there are definitely a lot of key nuggets that I have taken away from this book that I'm going to implement not only in my personal life but in the business as well. Garrett obviously is a genius when it comes to his understanding of finance and investments, whether it be real estate or insurance. The last thing I want to sort of talk about in my final summary is this whole idea of insurance. Definitely Garrett's stand is to be insured as much as you can. I, as a widow myself, I understand the importance of insurance, and as a single mom as well, it's important that while we are still living, that we make sure that we're taking care of our kids and that we're living a legacy and not liability. So it is important to sort of look at how are you covered from an insurance perspective. He goes to extreme and saying that literally everything should be insured top to down, but I think that sitting with a good financial advisor and looking at what your needs are and making sure that your assets are protected, your home is protected, that if you have kids, that if something was to happen to them, they would be taken care of as well. In general, great book. Again, I got a lot of good nuggets of information that I hope to apply not only to my personal life but to my business as well. If you have not read the book, click on the link below to grab a copy. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. If you like this video, please subscribe and thumbs up.